Welcome to our banking and corporate finance panel. I put these two panels together because they're somewhat related, somewhat not. But at the same time, it's been very good for our students to hear more about what the banking industry has to offer, which is part of corporate finance if you think about it. But at the same time, what corporate finance people would do on a day-to-day basis, right? That's the whole point of this panel. So without further ado, I want our panelists to introduce themselves briefly, and we'll start the questions afterwards. So,
I'm Melissa Torres. I'm from Oak Bank in Fitchburg around Madison. We're a one-location, $450 million bank. We serve commercial and residential clients. My position there is the Vice President of Loan Operations, so I work more behind the scenes. I've been in banking about 27 years in different capacities between credit, the regulatory side, operations, lending, and even a teller at one point. So welcome.
Hi, I'm Jeff Vohs, Senior Vice President, Commercial Loan Officer with SENB Bank. I'm based out of our Beloit office. We're about a $350 million, about $350 million bank for the next 3 weeks. And then we become CBI Bank and Trust, and working through that that merger right now, being acquired by them and going from there. So I head up primarily commercial lending, but also work in the residential and the consumer lending space for two of our offices, 2 of our 5. Been in banking now about 12 years and actually came out of the baseball industry. So 2 completely different industries, and worked my way into banking, but started in commercial lending right away and just worked my way up from there. So happy to be here and glad to see everybody here.
Travis Frazier. I'm from First Business Bank. We've got our headquarters in Madison, location in Milwaukee and in Appleton. Graduate here of the Harvard of the Midwest, class of December 2011. So been in banking since then. So about 12 years now? You have to use math in banking, right? So basically, small business lending. Commercial lending, and what we do is determine whether we want to lend businesses financing or not. What else am I missing? President of the Wisconsin RMA chapter. We'll talk a little bit about that. Melissa's on the board as well too. One of the things that I'd encourage you guys to think about is come April, we have a credit case competition where we kind of pair you with a mentor and you guys learn about commercial banking itself. So it's a great opportunity. You can win scholarship money, you can win prize money, and probably most importantly, learn about banking itself, hands-on. You get a case competition, again, a mentor, and then just make great connections within the industry.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Lexy Kahoun, and I'm from the Office of Comptroller of the Currency. Or otherwise known as the OCC. So the OCC regulates national banks. I've been with them for about 6 years now. I started directly out of college, and I had some experience with banking, just like Melissa. I was a teller for a bit. But yeah, I started this job right after college, and I've been here ever since.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Nick Gorn, and I work with Lexy at the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency. I've been with the agency a little over 2 years, graduated from Whitewater here in May of 2021. In terms of that, previous banking experience interning at BMO for 2 summers in college prior to working for the agency.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jaime Wolf. I work for Rockwell Automation, so I think I might be the only corporate finance person on the panel. Not intimidating. I've been at Rockwell for more than 21 years. And so just as I had it explained to me that maybe you don't know what corporate finance really even is. So how you might think about helping people with their personal investments, I do that for my company. And that comes in lots and lots of different ways. So, we're helping to generate additional revenue, retain profits more than we did before, making investments for the company. So like we acquire companies as an example. And just overall trying to make more money for our stockholders in the end. Okay. So I think I said I've been there for more than 21 years. I was an accountant by degree. I did do some accounting roles, and then I switched to financial planning and analysis for the company. But probably more than a third of my career, I've actually done IT-like things. So I worked on a system implementation team to, make our company move to our global ERP system, SAP. And today I actually own all of our financial systems for the company. So the applications we use for accounts payable, accounts receivable, treasury, external reporting, the SAP side of finance, et cetera, et cetera. I think I own something like 12 applications. I also am an early career program manager. So I manage all of our interns and rotational associates in finance in the United States for Rockwell.
That's pretty good. And I have to follow that, so that'll be fun. I'm Bob Bastien. I work at First Citizen State Bank here in Whitewater. Commercial lending. I've been in banking for 20 plus years in various capacities. Started as a teller, got into the credit world, and thank you. Yeah. And got into the sales side of things too. So not as exciting as Jaime, but hey, what I got.
Hey, good morning still for everybody. Adam Mannetter. I'm a 2001 graduate from Whitewater, so it's been a while since I've been back here, but it's good to be back. My career has kind of spanned from investment banking to the hedge fund world, and then I started in corporate banking about 9 years ago with PNC. So I currently I'm as a senior vice president for our company, focusing on the Midwest. So I'm in our corporate bank. My team works with large corporate and middle market clients. So think companies that, our middle market is 50 million in sales to about $1 billion, and then $1 billion and over in sales as our large corporate. So Rockwell, we work with Rockwell and their team. This week, kind of just like an example, we've worked with a family-owned business that's focused in the automotive supply space, doing a shareholder buyout. We've worked on, raising capital for a growing company that does airline parts and services. Let's see. This morning had a call with a large corporate company that's raising a lot of capital. So it's kind of the broad spectrum of work, and really enjoy it. And then in addition, in terms of our development programs, I manage all of our Midwest Development Program associates. So that's a program that's recent college grads go into. It's a 3-year program to kind of learn the ins and outs of our corporate bank. So work with all those associates that join. So good to be here.
Excellent. So since we have a diverse group of people on the panel, I want to, ask my questions in groups, right? So for those who are in the banking industry, what does it mean to have your title? Say you're a business banker, you're a portfolio manager, right? What do you do, and how did you get there? How was your career path to get there? So let's start. Whoever is going first, yeah.
That's a loaded question. I guess, so my title is Vice President of Loan Operations. And what that is more behind the scenes, and you'll probably hear from these other guys to my left. I help document our loans. If you go to get a car loan, you have to sign some papers. That's my team that pulls together those documents to make sure we as a bank have a legal binding contract. And then we manage that on the backside with our billing system. We call it our core system. To make sure that statements come out, the codes on the system are right. When it comes to reporting to our regulators or our shareholders, like all of that stuff is for the loan side is dependent on my department and the software that my team has to manage. So my title is more the backside, the operational aspect of the bank when it comes to loans. And I guess how I got here, I've been through the credit world. I developed a credit analyst or a credit department back in the day in a previous life, managed credit risk. And so that was like the special asset side, managing past dues, foreclosures, repossessions during the recession back in 07, 08. So just doing a lot of that back end working stuff. And I've just been in those different areas over the course of my career and and enjoy more of the back end operational side, the technology, working with software, just seeing how processes work. That's what challenges me and that's what I like. So that's how I got to where I am.
Keep going down the line here. So my title is Senior Vice President, Commercial Loan Officer. To be honest, I kind of joke with a lot of people. I've been in banking 12 years and I've probably had 10 titles. So I don't get too caught up on it, but I started in as just a business banker. As I mentioned, I came from the baseball world. So what my job is very front facing. It's all about relationships. It's building and creating those relationships. And that's what I enjoy. So I started out just as a business banker, which was working with on the commercial side, but then I worked up and they just kept adding to my title, basically is what it ended up being. As my portfolio grew, which I started from scratch, started with no portfolio, worked my way up from there, and have grown it and continued to grow it. Then, typically another title would get added, which obviously also means more responsibility. So to where I'm at now, where I have our team of lenders, as I said, on the commercial side, the residential side, and the consumer side that all work under me. I have my team that I head up, but I also have my own individual responsibilities as well. So, but they just call me whatever they want to call me, typically is how it goes. So.
Yeah, I'll tag on with what Jeff said. So if you want to impress your family members and become a vice president early, banking is the way to do it because everybody in banking is a vice president, just so you guys know. It comes with the role. Speaking broadly, in terms of banking, you have a retail side and you have a commercial lending side. Commercial lending side is when you're working with businesses. Retail, think mortgages, auto loans, HELOCs, things like that. I think most people on the panel here are commercial lending. And just to kind of go through the life cycle, I know Professor Mohammad talked about titles. You have business development people that go out there and solicit business for the banks, work with businesses to bring them in, and ideally as the banks make money, generally speaking, by making loans. You have deposits, right? You guys all have your deposit accounts, and then hopefully a bank can use those deposits and lend it out in the form of loan, and they get the difference, right? So you get paid interest on your deposits. Hopefully the loan is being charged at a higher rate, and the difference is the money the bank makes. As far as how loans work in commercial lending, again, the business development people go out there, they have a prospect, and then you have a credit analyst that gets all the financials, and this is generally where you would start if you want to go in commercial banking. You put all the financials together, you do a spread, you interview management, which I think is really cool. So one of the things you guys can do really early in your career if you go into commercial banking is talk with business owners. And the transactions you're working on generally are really large. I mean, it moves the needle for these businesses. So if you want to do something important, which I think a lot of people do, commercial lending is certainly where you want to be. It's something that's when business owners are making big steps in their career, this is like where we're involved. So it could be buying a new building, it could be buying a business, many different things. But generally, I would say the loan size ranges from $1 million plus. I think Adam down there, how large are some of your loans?
I think the largest we kind of combined loan. I mean, I think one of the deals that's in market right now is I think for $2.2 billion. So I mean, we're not doing that whole amount ourselves. It's a syndicated, so we're working with other banks. But our probably largest hold in one deal is $500 million.
So it's pretty substantial. So the credit analyst then puts it together, goes to loan committee. The bank decides if they want to do the loan or not. And then it goes to somebody like Melissa to close a loan, make sure it's properly documented. So that's kind of some of the roles. As far as my role itself, once the loan is closed, a portfolio manager, managing the relationship for the life of the loan, any servicing actions that needs to be done. I'm in charge of that, monitoring the borrower to make sure that they're doing well. And if they're not, what can we do to help them? Because as a bank, we don't want businesses to default on their loans, right? Because that's when we lose money. So we want to try to help them out and make them financially healthy throughout the life of the loan.
Excellent, Travis. That's exactly what I was looking for in terms of summarizing. So let's hear from Adam and Bob, and then we move to regulators, so.
I can't remember what the question was anymore. No, I think it's titles. Or what do you want me to do? How we got here?
So yeah, how did you get from Whitewater to where you are right now, and what does it mean, to be at the PNC and having, by title, I don't mean the VP, senior VP, all of that. By title, I meant, like, let's say portfolio manager that Travis mentioned, or so.
Perfect. So, I mean, a lot. I guess what I think of, how you get here. Typically, you come out of undergrad. And I'll maybe speak more on the investment banking side. Kind of starting out as an analyst. So, similar to what you said. Hey, you're doing the financial analysis, the spreading, putting together pitches. You're doing a lot of work on that at Guard. Kind of once you get experience, move to an associate, serving a similar role. And then kind of as you go up, the responsibilities can grow. For PNC, the title is Credit Products Group. So what does that mean? That would be, think of portfolio management, underwriting loans, you're structuring, recommending what structures you want in the transactions, and you're really teaming up with the sales individuals that are out being the quarterback for the bank and bringing all the bank's products and services to our clients. Credit is just one of those products and services, and that's the group that I work with. And then probably the third, at least at PNC, the third leg of the stool. So we have the sales team, we've got my team, which is credit products, and then the third leg would be our risk management. That's kind of telling us like, yes, what the structure you're recommending and putting forward to the clients makes sense. It doesn't make sense. So those are kind of the big three in terms of PNC, how we go to market. But then my world's focused all on the credit. I was talking to some students beforehand. In school, you learn a lot about the equity markets and the stock market, and I was a part of the applied investment program when I was here. I think it was the second year of it, so dating myself. But I didn't realize how large the debt capital markets were when I left. The debt capital markets are larger than the equity markets. You just don't hear about it as much on CNBC or other news channels. So that's kind of how I moved up.
Awesome. Bob, our own local banker,
Yeah, I just started banking again in a community setting in April here in Whitewater. Prior to, I started out as a teller, actually, my last semester here at Whitewater, and then moved into a credit role with the goal of becoming a commercial lender. Been fortunate to work at some growing institutions, so I've seen it where it's gone from a more local decision making to a more corporate or centralized decision making. And when that happened, I decided sales wasn't for me, so I went back into the credit world and got into managing a team of underwriters, so the back office stuff like Travis was talking about. And did that for a few years, and then I had a great opportunity to come back to that local banking world at First Citizens in Whitewater here. And really what drove me to get into banking was growing up, my dad bought a business, so I saw how his banker was able to help him achieve his dreams. So I know it kind of sounds corny, but that's kind of what drove me into getting into banking and lending.
Excellent. Thank you all. That was a good summary. The reason I ask these questions is because our students sitting there, they may not really know what they want to do. I mean, that's the whole goal of Finance Day to begin with, right? I told them already, but when I was in their shoes, I had no idea what I want to do. I studied IT engineering. Now I'm doing finance, not in the industry, in academia. So, right? So I want them to learn a little bit more about everything. So that was a really, really good summary. Now, moving towards regulators. So OCC. Why OCC? Why the regulatory body? What made you, Lexy, and then later on Nick? What made you make that move?
I feel like Nick and I have a very similar path to how we found the OCC and to how we figured out that we wanted to work here. So we'll just kind of go back and forth together. So I was basically in your shoes when I was in college. I was going to career fairs. I was going to these type of meetings. And I was walking through the career fair and I couldn't find all of the banks that I wanted to talk to. And then all of a sudden somebody from the OCC pulled me aside. And they said, have you heard of the OCC? And I'm like, no, never. I don't know what it is. So she talked to me. She explained the different, what they do. So basically, we're regulating all different types of national banks. We're assessing their financial condition and also their risk management practices. We get to travel. Everything sounded so great to me. So I walked out of there all happy. I applied. And then, yeah, I ended up here. So you start off as an assistant national bank examiner for the first year. You're going through and you have like a training team. I actually just led a training team in Omaha, but you have it's around like 6 to 8 months where this training team leader is basically showing you how to review bank financials, review risk management practices. And then from there, you move on to the associate national bank examiner position, which Nick is. I don't know if you want to touch on that.
Yeah, it's pretty much still reviewing a lot of the same things from the financial areas. However, you get more the ability to branch out into some other areas such as asset quality, consumer compliance, bank IT. So really what drew me to the OCC career, I guess, is the opportunity, if you're interested in banking, to get to review and, touch on all areas of a bank and really get that exposure rather than, just working in one area. If you were to work either at a bank or in corporate finance, it's been a lot of fun getting that exposure. Then additionally, while we're doing our examinations, we get to interact with, senior level bank management. So, starting right off on the training team, like 2 years ago, my first bank exam, I was going in and meeting with the bank's chief financial officer, chief executive officer. So a really good opportunity to get to ask questions and, interact with high level members of bank management who have a lot of experience within the industry. Certainly a little intimidating. I was going into it worried that I was going to look like a fool, and I'm sure I probably did a little bit. But, the opportunity to learn as much as you do is really a great opportunity and a great way to start your career. So that's really what drove me to it. I'm not sure, Lexy, if you have anything else.
Yeah, and then once you feel prepared, you go through this test, and then you become a national bank examiner. So that's where I'm at right now. And then there are so many different opportunities that we can do afterwards. So I feel like I'm basically at the start of my career, even though I've been working here for 6 years and just kind of building up to that.
Excellent. And last but not least, Jaime, corporate finance. What does it mean to be in corporate finance field? How did you decide to essentially choose this career path? What does it mean to you?
So I was always good in math. Actually, that's where it started. I actually thought I was going to be a math teacher, and then I decided I didn't really like to deal with other people's bratty kids. So, but knowing that I was good in math, I had a high school teacher that kind of noticed that, and we had accounting classes when I was in high school, and it was easy for me. So I definitely took the easy route for me. Accounting isn't easy for everybody, but it was pretty straightforward for me. So that's how I decided to go for an accounting degree. I also had the opportunity, I've talked to a couple of you already about this. I think that we don't do enough for students as a society to allow them to actually see what it means to do a certain job. I have a 19-year-old. She wants to be a neurosurgeon. And I can't envision her cutting somebody's head open. So, but she doesn't really know what that means, right? She thinks she knows what it means. You think you know what it means to be an accountant, or you think you know what it means to be, commercial banker, even with our information. And so I had the great opportunity when I was in high school. We had all kinds of career shadow days. I encourage you to take every opportunity you can to actually go see what it looks like to go do those jobs. Because I can tell you, and it still won't quite make sense to you. You kind of probably won't be able to envision it. But I had the chance, my first shadow job was actually for a public accounting firm, teeny tiny place, and it was really silent. And I'm not a silent person. And I was like, I think I might die here. And so my second opportunity was actually at a really small manufacturing firm in my hometown, which is not a large place. And it was loud, and people were shouting over the machines to talk to each other. And I was like, yeah, this is my jam. So that's actually how I ended up in corporate finance. So I knew that I wanted to be in some kind of loud environment, so I fit in. And so I worked for a few different firms before I landed at Rockwell and I found home. But, we make stuff, right? We work together to accomplish a common goal. So when I started, my title was accountant. There are lots of ways to get into different corporate finance places, and Rockwell is a really large company. And so we have lots and lots of diverse opportunities to do different things. So I have been at Rockwell for 21 years. I have had 2 roles that were more than 4 years each. And I think I'm on my 15th job. Do some math. Okay, so my shortest role was just 6 months. And I said, this is so great. I will keep everything that I have. May I have more work to do? And they said, you know what? Let's just move you to something else. And I was like, well, okay. So where there's ambition and opportunity, you'll get to move around. Bigger places, of course, provide that opportunity to move around quite a lot. I think if I'm being very technical, I think I had 4 different accounting roles, some in like our general accounting kind of setting. I did work in cost accounting. And then somewhere along the way, we call it tapped on the shoulder to apply for a job in finance. And I said, you think I can do that? I don't know anything about what that means. But, with a lot of mentorship, I went into that role and I was like, oh, well, this isn't hard either. Okay, sounds good. And I got to talk to more people. So that was good for me. And so you don't have to talk to people, by the way, if that's not your thing. But, lots of different avenues that you can take, lots of different routes. And so I've been an accountant. I've been a senior accountant. I've been an analyst, a financial analyst, a senior financial analyst. I made manager at some point. I worked in IT for a hot second. They paid me, but I was still finance, just so you know. But definitely lots of different routes and paths that you can take. And if you're like me and I say I have career ADD, there are opportunities to go on and let it all out. So, yeah.
Awesome. So the next question that I have is, for those in the banking industry, you work for different banks, different sizes, from PNC, which would be the largest here, to some of the smaller banks, First Citizen State, few branches, 1 branch. You've had a very interesting career. So you've tried different types of. So what does it mean? I just want students to learn a little bit about what does it mean to work, let's say, at a local smaller bank versus, let's say, a much larger one. What does it need? What does it require? Especially for those who want to apply. Some of you, and we'll get there, have positions available. So all of that.
I guess in my career, when I was at a teller, I worked at Bank of America, TCF, trying to think of the M&I back in the day. Now it's BMO. Those were some of the largest corporations that I worked for. And I enjoyed working for them. They had the good structure, the good career paths, the good programs and training mechanisms. And so don't get me wrong, like the big banks are for certain people. I really enjoy the smaller community banks. After I left M&I went to an institution in Madison called Park Bank. And at the time, Park Bank had about, a dozen or less branches. And they were maybe $400 million in assets. There, I went to do commercial loan documentation, eventually was asked to create and run their credit department, then became their loan review officer, and from there went to the FDIC. But I enjoyed working at Park Bank, and now other community banks, the one now, or my previous one to this one, was State Bank of Cross Plains, now known as Lake Ridge. They went through a merger and acquisition just recently. But I felt more like a person that could make a difference. And that's what made me go back into the community banks, the smaller banks. And that difference was I could either make that difference for my commercial lenders that I worked with and served. I could make a difference for my clients, my special asset clients that were struggling due to divorce, death, illnesses. They wanted to keep their homes. They wanted to keep their cars. I could make a difference for them. And so that's where I feel like in the smaller community banks, It's not that they're just very small in structure locations and you can't go anywhere. You may not see as many title changes or as many position moves, but my gosh, I'll give you, how to learn our core system and all that's behind that. I'll give you how to learn documentation and the system behind that. You're going to learn a lot because you're going to wear a lot of hats. And I think that's why I like community banks and the smaller institutions. But you can take that and expand that over to PNC Bank and do different things there. It's just at a larger scale. So for me, that's what community banking means to me and why I've stayed in community banks, the smaller institutions.
For me, I think in full disclosure, I've never worked for a big bank. So I don't know. The first bank I worked for was about 90 million. We got bought 5 years ago by SENB Bank. So we're about 340 million. And then in 3 weeks, we are being bought by CBI Bank and Trust, and we'll be about 1.3 billion. So still small in the banking realm. So still a small community bank, but I think what kind of drew me to the smaller community bank, and there's I don't want to say pros and cons necessarily. I think the big thing for me was the fit, the culture fit. Adam and I were talking out there. His group feels very small. Don't want to speak for you, Adam, but the culture is good. It feels local. It everything there. I think that's a big thing for me is finding a place that I fit in. Somewhere that they're going to listen to my thoughts. What I'd like to do, and you have a little more ability to not just fit in one box. And there's fits for small community banks. There's fits for larger banks. I'm going to work with a smaller business than somebody at a big bank. I mean, the biggest loan I've ever done is about 6 million. So not billion, million. So it's a little bit different. But you're helping smaller businesses too, which you need the bigger banks to help the bigger businesses. My legal lending limit, I can't go help somebody who has $1 billion in sales a year. It just doesn't work. So there's those different fits, but I think my attraction to it was personally having that where you do get to learn everything. You get to be part of everything. Your voice is heard, but that can also be the same in a big bank, depending on that culture. I think that's a huge thing.
Alice, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, you touched on a culture question there, so I think Adam should probably respond real quick too on the big banking side. A lot of people that are in commercial lending, you could be on a big bank like Adam, a big regional bank like that, and there's even bigger banks than PNC. But a lot of people like community banking because, again, you wear different hats. When I'm coming here, I kind of try to think of myself in the seat that you guys are sitting in, and if I were you guys, I'd be like, do I want to work at some small bank in Madison? Why would I want to do that? I want to work at U.S. Bank that's got a big building in Milwaukee. That's where I want to be. I would caution you there. Again, we'll let Adam respond. That you may be more siloed in that. At a smaller bank, you wear many different hats. You could learn so many different things early in your career. So just what I would say to you guys is don't write off the community banks. It's definitely a good career opportunity, and keep that in mind as you're searching for jobs and internships.
I'm glad I put you guys far apart, so. Yeah, that's the whole point. Thank you. Yes.
If I'm being honest, why I got back into community banking, it's a 10-minute commute for me from my house to Whitewater versus an hour-long commute to New Berlin. But I think the common theme here is culture. You find a company that, if it's a multi-billion-dollar bank or a $500 million bank, find a bank and a culture that aligns with what you want to do and accomplish in your career. I've been fortunate to work at 3 different financial institutions now, and each one of them had a great culture. And I wouldn't have been interested in leaving my previous position if it wasn't going to be a similar or a better culture to move into. So, and also learning. I think that's another common theme that you've heard today. The ability to learn as much as you can and challenge yourself is another very attractive thing for me anyways. So just keep that in mind as you're looking at big bank or small bank or wherever you're going. Just learning and cultural fit are something that I don't know if it's really taught enough. No fault of any professor, but that's just something to keep in mind.
Well, yeah, absolutely. So, Adam,
Sleeves up.
we're ready.
No, I'm just joking. No, I mean, I guess for me, I mean, I grew up in a really small town, town called Abbotsford, Wisconsin, less than 2,000 people. So when I was in high school and in college, before my, I guess before I was a rising junior, it's the new term is rising now. I worked at a small community bank. It was called Abbey Bank. We had one location in Abbotsford, and then we acquired another location in Wausau. So I kind of got to do that really early in my career through an apprenticeship program. And, at Whitewater, I don't know if it was the bright lights or wanting to work with larger companies, but that just, for me personally, that's what got me excited. So when I kind of started my career search, that's where I focused my efforts on large institutions. I saw the movie Wall Street. I was all enthralled. I wanted to go to New York. So that's what I set out to do. So I started my career with JP Morgan, which, that's definitely larger national bank. And that's kind of, the culture. Few people have mentioned culture. That is probably what I've learned. One of the most things I've learned probably over my 20-year career is culture is huge. I mean, I played athletics. I'm pretty competitive. So I like that JP Morgan culture, but I also felt it was this is just me personally. I think it's very, maybe more of a selfish culture, trying to one up. You're definitely focused with your clients, but it was very an aggressive, me first culture. The hedge fund world was similar. And then kind of that's how, as I transitioned to PNC, the PNC has been the place I've been the longest. And some of that is because of the culture, the camaraderie, working together. We have a model where, although we're top 5, depending who you talk to, it's either top 5 or top 6 U.S. bank. We go to market locally. So we, I have a team in Wisconsin that I work with. I have a different team in Illinois, a team in Michigan. So it's although we have all the breadth products and services, we're going to market local. So that's what I've found to be the right fit for me. I get to work with clients that I'm very interested in, that I get to use the corporate finance skills. I get to use my capital market skills, get to use the operational skills from our treasury management. But yet, so we have all this breadth and product services, but we get to kind of serve it locally. Honestly, where we fit the best, truth be told, it is kind of that middle market to large corporate space. That's where our products are built to. That's where we can compete the best. If we're going to be working with, a single, a family-owned business, we're probably not going to be the best fit for that because we can't probably give as much of individual services as some of the other folks in this panel can. So it's somewhat what you're interested in. There's a lot of great opportunities. It's really more what your interest and goals are.
Awesome. Well, we came out pretty safe, I guess, at the end.
Collaborative guy. I can be friendly. And no, I'm just joking.
Yeah. Lexy and Nick. So regulation side. Tell us a little bit more about what types of banks do you guys regulate or oversee? What do you do more specifically? I still remember, Nick, your presentation about OCC and just getting you all the way here and sitting on this panel. It's fascinating. Just tell us a little bit more about that and share whatever you can, as much as you can, all of that.
Yeah, funny how that works, right? Who would have thought? But certainly, so the banks I primarily work in are community and mid-sized banks. So in the Milwaukee office, which Lexy and I both work out of, our portfolio, the largest bank we have is a little under $9 billion in assets, and the smallest, which we were just at, is $27 million. So a pretty wide variety of different bank sizes. Then as well as we get farmed out and work at mid-sized banks as well. So like your Associated Bank, Old National, things like that. So anywhere up to around $50 billion. So the size of the institutions we're at really varies depending on your assignment, which makes it a lot of fun too. You get to see pretty much what all different banks do and kind of get an idea of, what the regulatory expectations are at a $27 million bank versus a $10 billion. So a lot of different opportunities to get experience working in banks of different sizes, which has been a lot of fun so far for me.
And also, so I just wanted to throw in too. So when we talk about like asset size, we're talking about like their loans, their investments, basically like the assets and liabilities of the bank. The liabilities are like their deposits that customers have at the bank. Assets are, your loans and investments. And then also I wanted to throw in there. So there's also a lot of opportunity to regulate larger banks too. The larger banks, I would say,
Just grill you.
yeah, no. Well, it's different though. So when you're at a large bank, you're not talking to the presidents, the chief financial officers, or chief credit officers. You're talking to liaisons of the bank, like their legal team. And then when you go to the smaller banks, because they don't want to say anything wrong. So but when you go to the smaller banks, we're working with the president nonstop at this one bank that we're currently working on. But so that's a little different there too. And then there's also a lot of opportunities too. Like I have every quarter I have 3 weeks at one of our large banks or national banks. So Citibank, that I'm doing consumer credit on. So like 1 to 4 family residential, real estate, auto loans, credit cards. So yeah, there's a whole lot of opportunity to do different types of things.
Yeah, I just add in there. So really, when you start out your career, I'm on 2 years, you spend most of your time in the mid-size and community banks. But then the longer you're with the agency, the more opportunity you have to go work in large banks and things like that. So it's more of a progression, really starting in the community bank, then getting some mid-size opportunity, and then moving into the large banks. So that's kind of how that natural progression works and kind of the opportunities that you get.
Excellent. I know some of you guys are hiring. Or you've hired in the past, and students, they want to learn a little bit more. Career Fair is coming up. The reason we do Finance Day specifically at the end of September is because we want to make sure it's right before the Career Fair to prepare them as much as possible to make it less intimidating for them, right? So if you're hiring, what are you looking for? What tips do you have for students to be more successful, especially in your own career path, right? What do you recommend them in general? So let's start with Jaime, and then we'll move.
We are hiring. So I had mentioned, right, that I'm an early career program manager at Rockwell. And so we always have an intern class every summer of, last summer we had 15. We're looking for a total of 12 this coming year. And then we have a rotational program as well for postgraduate, students. It's a 3-year program where you do 1 year in different areas throughout the company, and we work really hard to have diverse experiences so that, you might do one rotation in something that's more like accounting, one rotation where you might be supporting a business unit, and something that might be at corporate or I'll say unique. So the thing that I am always looking for, I hire a lot of people. I am always looking for a demonstration that you can think on your feet. We call that information processing capability. So I am always looking for a person that will spend some amount of time trying to solve a problem on their own, and then realize when they've spent enough time on it and come and ask me. So it's a fine line, and it's a bit of an art. Not a lot of people necessarily have it, especially as a student. So as a student, I would expect you to be asking more questions rather than fewer. And then as you get more experience, then for sure, flipping to be more independent.
Excellent. Are you happy with Tatiana?
I am so pleased that last year at the same event, this girl walked up to me while we were in the networking session, and she has some portion of her educational timeline involved IT, and she said she heard that I said something about I kind of do IT stuff, and she was like, "Tell me more." And she started at Rockwell in June in our rotational program, and she's doing phenomenally.
Amazing. For those of you who don't know Tatiana, she used to be the president of FMA up until last semester. She's sitting right there in the back with Ryan. So I want to encourage you guys to talk to her if you're interested more specifically about corporate finance, because she can share more. I can always put her on the spot, but I don't think she would appreciate it right now. So, yes, I know. Yeah, Travis, you share some job opportunities. Please tell us more about that.
Yeah, because I want to see a UW Whitewater graduate here at First Business Bank, because typically they just go to UW Madison and Milwaukee. And that's one thing I'll say to you guys too, is to a certain extent, you're kind of hidden here, out here in Whitewater. Some banks and institutions don't necessarily come out here just because you're off the beaten path. Originally, that's what my bank did too. We just recruited from Madison and Milwaukee. Now they're finally getting out here. So we've got internships, summer internships, which could be converted to full-time jobs during the school year. And then we have an introductory credit analyst program development program as well for those that are graduating. Note, the deadline to apply for that is October 17th, I believe. So we're going to be here at the career fair next week. I'm not, my HR people are going to be. But to Professor Mohammed's point, again, to my point, I want to see you guys, not the, Badgers and whatever Milwaukee is called. The Panthers. Sorry, Panthers. At First Business Bank. So I guess I would encourage you just to study as much as you can about First Business Bank before you talk to them. Give them some unique facts. And I've got some handouts there that describe the opportunity and just why you'd be a good fit for the opportunity. So I'd encourage you guys just to prepare for that and come up and be prepared to talk with those guys.
I'll jump in. So
Yeah.
I think that's good advice. Similar to us too, is like even when I was on campus, the larger banks or investment banks weren't recruiting on campus. So it was a lot of, how do I find them? So I actually snuck my way into a Madison career fair and did that. So anyway, so, be creative in your processes. But no, I mean, for PNC, I'd recommend everybody, if people are interested, feel free to link up with me on LinkedIn. I'll be around after here. I could talk. PNC Careers that's where you can find information on all of our different development programs. Similar to Rockwell, we have multiple different development programs for early career professionals. The recruiting season's early. I mean, it's way earlier than when I was in school. I mean, it's now. It's happening. So, we have our intern career, like our big recruiting day is, I think, October 19th for all the interns. So that's like right around the corner. We're on campus at different locations now, now through probably beginning of October. So it's in full steam ahead. I think we're probably hiring 50 interns right now for next summer, kind of throughout our network. So happy to talk to anybody, but I'll leave it at that.
Excellent. And OCC, Lexy.
Yes, we are also hiring for, I think the start date is in June. So if you're a senior graduating in May or June, definitely apply. I think the deadline is October 7th.
Yeah, so I'm one of the head recruiters for the Milwaukee office, and I also served as an intern mentor for our 2 interns this summer. So right now, all we're hiring for is our full-time assistant national bank examiner position. Our fall recruiting campaign runs through October 12th. So certainly would want to get your application in before then. Then there is also a pre-employment assessment test that you have to take. You have to have that done by October 16th. So we certainly recommend getting that application in sooner rather than later. And Lexy and I will be here for a little bit after to answer any questions you guys may have on that.
And then, so when you're going to career fairs, because I've been to like 4 career fairs where I was on this side, and I would say like the most, like somebody that I'll remember is somebody that comes up to me, is really confident, says, I've done a little bit of research about the OCC, I'm interested, and then just explain what you're interested in and just be confident, really. Because we'll see a lot of the time people kind of like avoid eye contact and you're like, come up and talk to me. So that's why we're there. So definitely come up. I mean, even if you haven't done any research, like I didn't do any research when I met the OCC because I didn't expect to go and talk to them. Just ask some good questions, because you can have like those canned questions that you ask, like, what do you like about your job? Like, does this, what kind of advancement opportunities are there? So just come with some good questions and just be confident.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm going to be at the career fair next Wednesday, the 4th. I'll be there the whole time. So if we don't have the opportunity to connect today, feel free to come up to me then. A lot of times, a lot of people don't know what the OCC is, so we don't get a lot of visitors. So certainly feel free to, yeah, we have to do a little bit of marketing ourselves and stop people who are avoiding eye contact. So if we have some people that are interested, that'd be great. Makes the day go by a lot faster for me. Otherwise, I'm just sitting there very bored, but appreciate it.
So I was just going to say that besides, right, career fairs and such, you guys are all going to be applying for jobs. I can't emphasize how important it is for you to do a little bit of research on the company or whatever it is that you're looking at. I don't think I even said what Rockwell does. We make the machines that make the stuff that people buy, right? So we don't make Pampers, but we make the machines that make the Pampers, okay, as an example. I once interviewed somebody who was just super excited. I asked, why Rockwell Automation? Why do you want to work here? And he said, I just really want to help people with their money. And I was like, oh gosh. So seriously, it doesn't take long. You can spend like 3 minutes. You look at our website, you tell me something about, I really, sustainability is really important to me. I'll be like, I already looked at my website. Okay, cool. That's it.
Yeah, I want to echo that. Make sure you do a little bit of the research. It goes a long way, right? And eye contact, definitely. In my class, I try to ask questions from people who don't make eye contact, actually. So that's becoming a theme. So yeah. Now let me do the same. Right now is the Q&A part. So I want to make sure this panel is on time. And so far, I think we're doing pretty well. So thanks to everybody. Q&A, any questions? There we go.
Could you explain more about that credit competition that OCC has?
Well, Travis and I think it's through the RMA chapter of Wisconsin. So the RMA chapter, or RMA, stands for the Risk Management Association, and that's a national organization across the country and even globally that comprises of financial industry professionals. But we volunteer our time to run what we call the RMA Wisconsin chapter. The RMA Wisconsin chapter hosts and is promoting a credit competition in April, and there's flyers out on the tables as well as on the table just immediately outside the door. But what we do, or what we're encouraging our team students to bring together teams of 2 to 3 people. We'll pair you up with a mentor, so someone like us in the industry. We provide you a case that you're going to read. It's not extensive. It's maybe 10 pages, if not even that, of a business scenario. So clients it's going to be like small business clients that, I think our first year we did it was a brewing company. So here's the brewing company. Here's the structure of it. It's family owned. Here's what they're looking to do: acquire a piece of real estate, maybe acquire some more equipment, get a working capital line of credit. You're acting as the banker, as the commercial lender, if you will, and the credit analyst to put together a written presentation to present. That's part of what you're being judged on, as well as your team is being judged on your verbal presentation in front of a panel of judges that are acting as the officers' loan committee. So these guys that are acting as, or I shouldn't say acting, but are business lenders periodically, they might be acting once in a while, as business bankers. They have to present, some of their deals are so large that they have to present in front of an officer's loan committee, a group of their peers within the bank, as well as their board of directors to get the loan approved. And we're looking for you to present in front of that panel of judges as if you're the banker. And then the second part of it is presenting in front of a panel of judges you're acting as if you're presenting to the borrower. So that panel of judges is then judging you on your presentation of what you got approved and how you present that to your borrower. The mentors are there to help you guide. They're not doing the work for you, but help guide you through that process. And it's a day-long event. We're finalizing the date, but I'm hoping it's April 12th. It's a Friday. I'm hoping it's in between spring break and graduation. And it's, as far as time commitment, as I'm assuming as long as we get enough teams to do this, we've had about 6 in the past. It should take you maybe an hour or so a week between February and April, depending on how your team comes together and works together.
I'll put a plug. I mean, I haven't even done this, but if you're going to be like a rising sophomore, or rising junior, like this is a great like discussion piece during your interviews for experience, because this is kind of what you're doing someone on a day to day when you're going into a role, especially if you're going into banking. So, I mean, it's a great way to get not real world experience, but similar to it where you're working with a team, presenting. It can give you discussion topics during that interview. So, I don't know. I think it's a great idea.
There's prize money too. I mean, the flyer that we have, first prize gets $2,000. So if there's 2 or 3 of you guys, that's a chunk of change.
You guys are taking all my talking points here. I was going to say prize money. I was going to say interviews. Jeez, nothing left for me to talk about.
Left.
What is it?
You get to network with the people that are there. I mean, when we did this the first year, it was in person, and then our second year we did it virtually because of the pandemic. But you get to talk to these, the mentors and the people that are there. But it's a smaller group of people. And you get to apply what you're learning in class to the presentation.
Yeah, if that's one takeaway. If we do it this year, which, we are planning to do, really mark that on your calendar. We'll keep mentioning it to Professor Mohammad, but April 14th, even speaking for Adam, if I could use one of your employees, if I will. He did the credit competition. We got him involved maybe 2 years ago, and unfortunately, he went to UW-Madison. But he said it really changed the trajectory of his career. He never thought about commercial banking before he actually did this competition. He got some prize money. I think he got maybe 4th place. So I think that was like $500 for the team. But if you also take part of this, you're in a really good position to win an RMA scholarship, which is a few $1,000s as well too. So again, you get hands-on experience. You can see if you like it. One of the things too, we talk about internships here. When I did internships at Whitewater, I think I found out through some internships what I don't want to do, which I think is just as important as finding out what you do want to do. Because if you do go into a job and you hate it, it's just time wasted. So I would encourage you to do this. Find out if you like it or not.
Excellent. Yes, what you don't like to do is as important. Happened to me too. That's how I realized I'm not an IT type of person. Oops. So, yeah. And one more thing, I was involved with the first year, and I had a really good experience with the RMA challenge. We didn't get to come because the pandemic happened with 2019, and we were in Madison with Ryan McMorrow. If you guys saw him, he was there, part of the team, and 4 other individuals who used to be part of my banking course. I used to teach the elective banking course, not anymore, so that's why it's a little bit harder for me to. But I promise this year to get a team together and finally pull through. No pressure. It's going to be from,
It's just 2 or 3 of you guys. There's much more than that in here. So 2 or 3 of you guys come together, form a team, and we'll keep Mo apprised of all of the information. And like Travis said too, the RMA organization offers scholarships as well as the Wisconsin. There's going to be a lot of acronyms. I'm going to say that off the bat. So as we're saying RMA and whatever, the Wisconsin Bankers Association too, WBA, also has scholarship opportunities. So if banking is your thing, that's what you're interested in, reach out to any of us. And Lori in the back is from WBA. There's a lot of money out there too for scholarship opportunities that you guys can take advantage of. So, please, as a parent that's currently paying for tuition, I hope my son goes out and asks for scholarships too. So,
actually, one of a Warhawk won that scholarship this year, right? This past academic year, yeah. Yes. So, yeah. Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Chase.
So in terms, oops, I just dropped my water bottle. It didn't spill. We're good. So in terms of like preparing for life after college, as it pertains to your role, what is something that you think college maybe didn't tell you about, or something you would maybe say, hey, look into this before you're getting out into the real world and in terms of business and as it maybe pertains to your role?
I'll go first. Well, I mean, I told a couple people this earlier, but at least in my world and in a lot of our world is really the Bible is the financial statements in our world. I mean, that's where everything starts. You need to be literate with be able to get through the income statement, the balance sheet, the cash flow statement. So I'd recommend you still have time in college, make sure you load up on accounting classes, even if it's not your favorite subject, because that goes a long way. Individuals that come into the door that I work with, if they're savvy on that and can get through that, they've got a leg up on a lot of the, graduates from more liberal arts type schools. So it's kind of a really good way to get ahead early in your career.
Financial analysis is definitely key. Also, one thing that doesn't maybe get hit on enough is being able to write in a business setting. You want to be able to write. I don't know how to describe it. You have to be concise and to the point. You can't have a lot of flowery fluff in the stuff you do. So learning how to do business writing, I guess, for lack of a better term, is something that'll help you out in the long run. And also, if you're interested in banking, learn how to golf. I say it tongue in cheek, but seriously, a lot of places it's a great opportunity for you to network with your clients and actually you win a lot of business on the golf course, believe it or not.
Notice Bob didn't say golf well. I mean, you just got to be able to golf. So, no, one of the excellent points down here, and I know one was already mentioned earlier, and it has nothing to do with classes really, but the being confident in being able to come up to talk to people. I mean, I think one of the big things is don't be scared. I mean, go up, talk to people. When I first got into, and again, it wasn't banking at the time, but when I graduated here and got into my industry, moved to a new town, moved down to Beloit, you kind of got to make your own way. You got to start introducing yourself to people. You've got to be able to build those relationships, attitude, effort. I know that's kind of corny. Everybody hears that, but don't wait for people to come get you. Get involved. That's a big thing.
One good quote from a banking professional that I heard recently. It's not just who you know, but who knows you. So to a certain extent, you guys kind of got to raise your profile. You can't be too shy. People that are up here, they're volunteering their time. We're here to talk with you guys. I think I said this to a group at a career fair once. These people came here to educate you guys. We want to do it out of the goodness of our heart. Send a thank you message. I think I got like one thank you from like the whole group. I'm like, guys, I literally told you what to do. But that's one thing you have to do. It's just put yourself out there. Whether you have a LinkedIn account or whatever, just make people know that you're out there. Like Jeff said, go up, talk to them, be confident. But people aren't going to find you. You're going to have to make your own opportunities to a certain extent and introduce yourself to people.
Awesome. I think we should wrap it up. So I want to make sure that you guys can get to talk to them outside, and it's a more relaxing environment, I think. And you all, I'm sure, are thirsty. Me too. I need more coffee. So let's wrap it up. But before we do, yes, absolutely.
Travis, you alluded to it. I think, Adam, you alluded to it. Whitewater is the largest accredited business school in the state of Wisconsin. It was when I went to school here 40 years ago. It still is today. It has the highest accreditation out of, in case our students don't know this, out of all the business schools. It's in the top 2% in the world with the accreditation it has. So this hidden gem, this thing that's not seen or not known, is just an incredible opportunity for businesses to connect. So I just wanted to share that because you may all know that already, but if you don't, it is a gem. Thank you.
Excellent. I couldn't have said it better. Thank you, Mark. Yes, with that, we want to wrap up this panel. A fun fact, Nick on the panel is the brother of, Jake is gone. There we go. They're brothers, if you can't tell by any chance. If you couldn't tell, they're brothers. That's number one. So get to talk to them, right? Tatiana is sitting, former president. Some of you know her already. If you don't, again, she's super sweet. Talk to them. and Ryan too. I want to thank every single one of you for taking the time to come on a Friday morning. I know it's not easy. I really, really, really appreciate it. Our students too. So I want to thank everybody. Before I forget, Melissa and Jaime, they're our newest mentors for the mentorship program. I know some of you are interested. If you want to talk to them about it, please reach out to them. And let's wrap it up. Give it up for them.